You are listening to Wicked Psychotherapists, a podcast where two psychotherapists show you that taking care of and learning about mental health doesn't have to be wicked hot.
Hey guys, it's Tanya.
Hi, it's Erin, and welcome to Wicked Psychotherapists.
Yeah, so today we are going to be talking about our favorite decade, the 80s. Well, a movie in our favorite decade, the 80s. And we're going to be going back to Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the awesome cult classic with Matthew Broderick, Jennifer Grey, and lots of other people we see in there that I forgot about. But this is a really great classic, adolescent story. It's also got a lot of mental health themes that we're going to, kind of poke into a little bit. I did want to, we always take a look at some of the movies that we've seen maybe a long time ago and the retrospect of kind of like, okay, now we're looking at them. What do we think? What's different? And I certainly felt differently. I did really like the movie when I was younger, but I found myself getting annoyed at certain points with this movie, way more so than when I was younger and kind of like overanalyzing it. But did you find that as well? Like that there was kind of some points that were really kind of, I don't know, just maybe grated on you or just like, ugh.
Yeah, because especially when I first watched it or even watching it through high school and everything, you'd think, Ferris Bueller's kind of cool. I do remember feeling bad for Cameron, but rewatching it now, I definitely felt I had a different feeling about Ferris throughout the movie, and it wasn't always in his favor.
Yeah, right. I mean, the opening scene, you see him plotting to be sick, which is just so, he's 17, 18, whatever. He's, doesn't want to go to school, but he's very manipulative and, what kid probably hasn't tried to do that? But it's his parents and the relationship he has with his parents that really aggravates me, where they're like, oh my God, poor Ferris. Like, he's just this great golden boy and he's just got them fooled. His sister, Jeanie, or Jennifer Grey, is just so pissed off. She's so angry because she knows what he's up to. She knows he's being conniving and he's always like that. They treat Jeanie like crap. Like he's like this golden child and they're like, oh, feel better. Or he's just like talking like a baby. I was like, oh, I forgot about that she seems like she's just kind of angry, but really she's got something to be angry about.
Right.
Like it's, she definitely kind of gets put aside and Ferris gets elevated to golden boy status. He's over here conniving and tricking his parents. And they don't even know him. They don't know who he is. They think he's like this like angel.
Yeah, and it seems like they villainize the sister or just don't realize that she's actually behaving or she's the one going to school and trying to get good grades.
Yeah. That was the first point that I was like, oh, I forgot about that. I didn't really remember that. But we kind of see Ferris as, I guess we could say, a manipulative person, a charming person, which is probably on par for being around that age to kind of get what you want. Right?
Yeah.
And then he sets off to make these elaborate plans. We get a look around his room. And I have to admit, I was like, this kid is in this really wealthy house. He's got anything and everything in his room, especially for the 80s.
Yeah.
It's very, very wealthy. He's got this huge stereo system, which I forgot about stereos. But yeah, he's got everything. He's got everything that you need. He just seems like a very privileged kid, he's kind of, and he's just like, oh, school is the worst thing. That's the worst thing for him. But that's just kind of my perspective as someone looking at, I never really could relate to those issues because I was like, it could be worse, And yeah, he tries to rope in Cameron, his best friend, who's obviously very sick. He's got a lot of depression issues with his family. He internalizes them and gets sick a lot. And was really just trying to manipulate him to be like, hey, come on over here. Let's do something to buck up, man up, and take some Pepto-Bismol, kind of thing. And Cameron really seems to have a lot going on. And on the one side, Ferris seems to be like, oh, I really want to cheer him up, but he's also just trying to, have a buddy to go do something with and to use his car.
Well, and to use his car, because Ferris mentions a few times, I wanted a car, but I got a computer.
Yeah.
So it's like his sister has a car, but he doesn't. Well, it seems like she does. She drives that little white thing around.
Which is kind of strange, because if the parents do kind of vilify Jeanie, but they recognize that she was responsible enough for the car and he wasn't, and he seems to be older than her. He's a senior and she's in high school with him, so I'm guessing she is like a junior or a sophomore in high school. But yeah, which is kind of maybe they're, I don't know, maybe they're just annoyed with her on that day. I don't know, but also it's a movie. So
we don't know everything. It's just it's a movie and it's one day in their life.
Right. Yeah. But it really, I think Ferris just comes off as someone who really wants to capture these last moments in his senior year of just like, he's talking about, we're going into adulthood and, life moves by pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around, you could miss it. He has this really kind of cool attitude about mindfulness and being present, which is something we tout in therapy a lot, kind of, if you're too anxious, maybe peeping into the future too much or thinking about the future or the past, maybe mindfulness exercises, kind of enjoying what's around you, engaging in what's around you. He's got that down. I mean, he definitely is pretty mindful, I think. So that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
The plot to get Sloane out of school, it just seems so overly complicated.
Well, and that's where I feel like there's the manipulation with Ferris, again, with poor Cameron, like manipulating Cameron, knowing that Cameron has like probably low self-esteem, depression, and easily manipulated, that Sloane already knew the plan before Cameron was even part of it, because as soon as like she got the phone, the teacher got the phone call and the nurse comes in, Sloane's putting on her fringe jacket just to, to get ready. So it seemed kind of elaborate and just, I could understand like, okay, we're going to have her part of it, but it did seem kind of silly and dumb. But it did feel like Ferris manipulated Cameron to do it because they needed his car, his dad's car, to make it all work. Okay, I want to wake up Cameron, get him out of bed. But we need your fancy car because it'll never be believable if we bring, if your old BMW won't work, we have to have the Ferrari.
Yeah, a real adult's car kind of thing.
Yeah.
It really is. It's got that 80s hijinks, like, John Hughes direction in there where it really just works out, right? He has Cameron call and then Ferris will call on the other line to be like, oh, it's not me.
Right.
And, the principal's already called who he thinks is Ferris Bueller playing Sloane's dad, like all these bad names and everything. And he's kind of got to backtrack. And then he feels like, oh my gosh, I just called this guy all these things. It's just so 80s, like cheesy, like that. That would not work now. I mean, because of course people could like voice changers, just calling up the parents, texting the parents, like it really would not work.
Right. Plus everything has caller ID now.
Yeah.
Unless you like star 69 or something, where you're just like, all right, I'm gonna, yeah.
That still works, I believe. But yeah, there's so much. Technology now that I just don't think this wouldn't fly nowadays. I was just thinking like, wow, that they have all these, for that time, 1986, like high tech answering machines with
the tape
messages that, the tape. Oh my gosh, the tape. Yeah. It was, and that you mentioned the fringe jacket. Yeah, that was so 80s. It was the white leather, like, fringe jacket. Yeah. It was just like, oh my gosh.
That only went right up to your pants. Like, it really didn't probably make you warm at all, like, if you needed it.
Yeah. It was definitely a lot of that 80s stuff going on. And no cell phones, so they had to do it kind of old school and set up all these kind of like Home Alone-esque
Which is interesting because I think, didn't he direct Home Alone too? So maybe he uses a lot of his same things in all of his movies. The car, the stand in front of the car like they do in, what was it, 16 Candles or something.
I think John Hughes has a lot about adolescence that maybe he got stuck in or he just had a lot of feelings about, because that seems to be his niche, like in different movies.
Yeah.
He really focuses on fooling the adults and being like a teenager and having hijinks and really, kind of cheesy stuff in a good way and very positively. Yeah. And then they get Sloane out and the principal is talking to her, trying to make some poetic type of sentiment because he believes that her grandmother died. And she's just like, "You're a very kind man," thinking like, oh my gosh, you sound like an idiot.
Yeah.
And then they kiss and he's like, "That's how it is in their family, huh?" Like, which I would think he would be like, "All right, that's weird."
Ferris.
Wait.
Yeah, you would think like he'd be like, "All right, I'm being had."
Yeah,
And
but
I was thinking her family must be super wealthy and maybe they give money to the school or something. Like, why would he be so intimidated by her dad? Not only did he, because he said stupid stuff on the phone, but it seemed like he was very like, "Oh my gosh, I got to make this right." It's really him.
Yeah. And I think that's probably why he didn't go near him. He kind of stayed on the steps and everything, which of course is the perfect plan because Cameron's in the back hiding from all of it. And Ferris just has like sunglasses on and a hat.
Looks like Inspector Gadget. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Didn't he play Inspector Gadget?
I think he did. Oh, that's so funny.
That is so funny because his outfit in that movie with the trench coat and the hat, he looks just like Inspector Gadget. That's so funny.
An awesome connection there. That's funny. That's a good connection. Yeah. Oh, so I wonder if maybe there was some thought like, in that scene, he kind of looks like Inspector Gadget.
Yeah.
And years later,
it's like, hey, like someone be like, "All right, I've always liked Inspector Gadget." And
oh, that's funny. I didn't even think of that.
Now I kind of.
Yeah, there's lots of little, I think, fun things about this movie that are just so 80s. It brings you back to if you were in school in the 80s. I was more in the 90s, like high school. Oh, I was in high school in the 90s.
Yeah.
But, it just was kind of funny to see this kind of old school 80s prank being pulled over on these dumb adults and the dippy secretary and everything. And so then they go off on their adventure. They go to Chicago because they're in some part of Illinois, or maybe they're in Chicago itself. And they start to, Ferris wants to find them places where they can have like the ultimate experience of just like going to dinner at a fancy restaurant, which is just so unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're able to get in and just kind of trick him and just ridiculousness. The hostess, the man who plays the hostess, he is so snotty. He's just like, no, you are the the sausage king of Chicago. Oh, and he just, I don't know. He's just so snooty, stereotypically like snooty restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And then, along the way, I think Ferris is really trying to be like, let's make the best of this. Let's live in the moment. Let's have these adventures. Cameron is kind of stuck in his head. He's got a lot of depression. It sounds like he's got a lot of family stuff that goes on. His parents don't like each other. His father likes the car more than him or his mom. Doesn't seem like they talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
He's sick a lot, probably because he's so stressed out. He seems like a very sensitive person, and he lives in a very dysfunctional family. And who knows if there's possibly some
abuse.
It's not stated, but he does seem to be very afraid.
Yeah. And the family, like if you look at the house, I mean, the house is crazy. It's just like his family is probably very, very wealthy. And then they're just leaving, like he's home alone for, however long, because they're both on different excursions or different trips. Even, it just seems like Cameron is just, not very, there's not a lot of, I don't know, I want to say love, but like, or affection probably from either parent for him. So maybe that's also why he is really drawn to his friendship with Ferris, because Ferris is very selfish, but he still is showing some attention to Cameron, and they've known each other for so long. So there could be that comfort too.
Yeah, and I think, I kind of wonder, and this is just kind of deep diving into the psychology of their friendship. I wonder, and I know it's a movie, but, this is what we do. I kind of wonder if maybe they were, when you become friends at like 5, it's because you both like the same toy or something, the
Right.
same color, right? There's
Yeah.
nothing really
You're in the
too
same
deep.
classroom.
You're in the same class. Yeah. You kind of, hey, you sit right behind me if there's no big connection. But I wonder if Ferris is kind of the person who will push Cameron out and will kind of be like, come on, which is kind of more to Ferris's benefit. But I think
Mhm.
that does get Cameron out of his kind of like sad world, sort of the way he's internalized all this. And Ferris is just kind of like, I just want to have fun. And he doesn't really think about consequences for people, but he's kind of self-absorbed, but he's also very much like, hey, a good example of how to just live in the moment, how to just be. So there may be kind of, they kind of bring out some traits in each
Yeah,
other.
'cause-
Maybe some
Yeah, 'cause-
introversion or
Mhm.
introspection from Cameron.
Yeah, and Cameron might also bring that to Ferris too, on days that we didn't see. Like, so he might help calm him and be like, hey, look, maybe you shouldn't do this really risky thing. Or, not everything is, you don't need all the instant gratification for everything. Let's slow down.
Yeah, and so I think that's kind of interesting. But then there is a point towards the end where Ferris he's kind of pondering, he's kind of breaking the fourth wall, talking to the camera, which he does at a couple points. And he's like, oh, I don't really know what's, Cameron and I will probably go to different schools and maybe this is it, like, I don't know that we're really going to be friends or as close because and I think that's another motivation for this time, these
Mhm.
memories, right?
Yeah.
But I also think Ferris is kind of self-aware in that and being like, hey, friends drift apart. Not like he's saying he wants to, but just like, we probably will go to different colleges, we'll meet different people and do different things, and we won't be as close as we were. The same with maybe Sloane, the girlfriend who's a year behind them. And so I think there is this feeling of like, let's put a stamp on this because this is special. It's like you kind of see that in there. I really like the scenes in Chicago. Somebody had written some article. I don't know where it was from. I'm sorry. And maybe it was a couple of articles that said this was John Hughes' like love letter to Chicago because he got to display, all the big sites, the Wrigley Field and the museum,
the Sears Tower or whatever.
Sears Tower. Yeah. And they were like looking down on that. And then the parade, which is, I don't know the significance of that parade. I feel there was some significance. Like that's a parade that they have.
Yeah. It was like either a German or a Polish American.
Like cultural kind of thing that they maybe have. Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds, of course, Ferris, he ends up jumping on a float and charming his way to being the center of that, which is fun. I think they all have fun together and it's like an experience. It's a memory. He's really good at creating memories and being big in that. Even though he may be kind of self-serving, he definitely kind of promotes that. He kind of moves that along, I think, in those and with Sloane and Cameron.
Yeah, because people are drawn to him. Kept hovering with okay, is he just a teenager? Is he selfish? Does he have narcissistic traits? Is he a good friend? Is he a bad friend? Why is everyone drawn to him? Like, even like when he's on the float, when he's doing the twist and shout, like the whole, it's just so ridiculous that everybody in the world is just like dancing to it and singing to it because they're just drawn, well, it's a catchy song, but it's also they're drawn to him.
Like his energy.
And so what is his, what makes him so charismatic and what makes, what is it about him that people are drawn to for good and bad? Because at school, they're like, some people want to cheat off of stuff he has, or some people want to help him, or they're just drawn and like all the flowers and stuff in the Save Ferris on the water tower. And it's like people are just really drawn to him for some reason.
I think it's his charisma and the reason why the principal and his sister don't like him. With his sister, it's a little different because of that dynamic. The way parents treat her. The principal gets so aggravated by him because he doesn't follow the rules. He'll do what feels good, but he's not necessarily trying to harm people. He's doing something that a lot of people want to do.
Right.
Kind of sparks to other people who are not, jealous and want to kind of suppress that and maybe miserable. It's very attractive because I think a lot of people are attracted to that. They want people around who can kind of enjoy the moment, because then it helps them to be in the moment. Yeah,
That just made me think of being in the moment and being attracted to that is when Jeanie was in the police station and she's sitting next to Charlie Sheen.
Who just showed up for work. They did no makeup needed.
Like, okay, I really was high. No, but it's, like she's just so disgusted by him at first. Like he's so gross, he's dirty, just very judgmental. But then they start talking and he has some really valid points, talking to her about a different perspective and different things. And then by the end, they're full on making out because she's realizing maybe there is an attraction to the person that's going against the grain.
Yeah. It kind of appeals to her. It's something that she has difficulty with. She suppresses it and she gets angry that Ferris can just flaunt it and be everyone's favorite and everyone loves him and the whole school wants to save him. It just blows up into this.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, he's going to need a kidney. And it's even at Wrigley Field where they're at. Like, save Ferris. It's just spread so far. It's absurd. Which is kind of funny how I think once Jeanie is able to confront and kind of say, because he's like, what do you care if your brother gets attention? And she's kind of thinking about it, maybe like, yeah, what do I care? Maybe I can just kind of focus on myself. This is kind of wasted energy. And like, look, there's this guy right in front of me who maybe she finds attractive.
Why are you so focused on him getting the attention? Then maybe you get an opportunity to do different things, or you can get attention in different ways. If he wants to be the goo goo gaga baby to the parents and get away like that, she can show that she's mature and she's not going to mess things up or, just live.
Yeah, she can just kind of do her own thing and she doesn't have to worry about that. And it seems like she really something kind of shifts in her perspective, because at the end, she could have totally, Ferris, when he's trying to get back and be back in bed, running through the neighborhood and he gets locked out of the back door. The principal thinks he got him. Principal Rooney or whatever thinks he got him. Jeanie opens up the door and is like, oh, you've wandered off. We've been worried sick, and kind of covers for him. Is kind of like, hey, maybe this could actually be something that, we could be kind of friendly towards each other. And this could be a decent sibling relationship. And I don't have to carry this kind of bitterness with me.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that would kind of change the dynamic. It does seem like he's very like, oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah. Why is she doing that? Yeah, it's shocking.
Yeah. And then because I think Jeanie is more upset that she finds the wallet and she realizes that the principal had broken into the house.
Yeah.
And gotten her kind of, dragged down to the.
Yeah. So somebody really, and then also it's like proof that she wasn't making it up, that she wasn't crazy. She wasn't doing a false statement. She knew somebody broke into the house. I mean, she had kicked him in the nose, but now she's like, look, I have your wallet.
I guess it's just so crazy to me because when that scene happens, I'm like, how would you not go to your parents and be like, look, his wallet is look at him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know it's not as funny and I know that doesn't like support it, but I'm just like, now we wouldn't even like our principal was like leering around.
Yeah. What a creep. Yeah.
He just like breaks in and like, or just walks in and yeah, but I did really like Jeanie during that time when the principal does break in and she's on the intercom and she's like, I just want you to know I have my parents' gun and a raging case of herpes. It's just like,
do not attack. Yeah.
But yeah, her character becomes kind of more lovable towards the end. Like you can see her, you can kind of understand that. And it's so funny that it's Charlie Sheen that helps her to realize that.
Yeah, and it's funny because in that then he's probably like all of like maybe, I don't know if it was before some of his other movies, but he looks a lot older than whatever he's supposed to be. Like if he's supposed to be like 17 or 18, he looks, because he probably really was a little weathered.
He definitely looks like in his 20s at least. But yeah, he looks rough for sure. And again, maybe that was, I don't know if that was makeup.
It could have been. I mean, maybe he was straight and narrow then. I doubt it.
I think he showed up to work like that.
I think so. I'm a little hungover.
They just went with it. They were like, yeah, the attire, the hair, the face, everything.
Let's keep it.
Ready.
Yeah.
This is just an endearing classic. I think this was named like one of the top something classic movies for like teens or something, like adolescents by some list. It is recognized as a, pretty
Yeah.
classic movie in that regard.
Yeah, I know it came out because I am a little older than you. It came out when I was in middle school. And I think I probably first watched it in middle school, just a little bit after, because, Blockbuster, you could still see it within the first few months. So a lot of us saw current movies. Yep, Blockbuster.
Yeah, we had to wait. We had to wait, youngins. Okay,
Yeah, we didn't get it. We didn't get it the same week, but we did have to. We could still get it within the same year, like several months.
It's still okay. It still hits me even now when a movie comes out in the theaters and like you can rent it off of Amazon Prime.
Yeah,
a week later, I'm still like gobsmacked about that. I'm just
sometimes you can even do it. Sometimes you can even rent it while it's still in the theater.
Really? Oh,
yeah, you have to pay a lot more, but so there are sometimes that they do that.
So it's kind of like, I mean, I think movie theaters are just not like they used to just be the sole point for movies coming out and like new stuff coming out, but now it's just like the power is taken away by a lot of these streaming services.
Yeah, and people like comfort. They want to, like a lot of people don't want to, even though they're like, okay, we have the reclining chairs in the movie theater. You get to choose your own seat if you want. They're trying to make it a lot more appealing, but I think some people are like, okay, that or sit on my couch and fall asleep while I'm watching the movie.
And I can also like stop it and go to the bathroom instead of like running out and wondering if I'm going to miss something.
Get everyone mad. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Like Blockbuster, waiting until it was on TV, like that type of. Actually, I remember waiting till it was on TV and then Blockbuster. And then even when you could get Netflix, like the DVDs, you could mail in. Mail out. I thought, oh my gosh, that's so convenient.
Yeah.
And now I just think of like, the streaming services we have and like, what is the future going to be?
I don't know. It's just, there's always so much. Okay, let me see what I have. I don't have enough to watch.
And there's literally so much.
Last night I was like, okay, where can I find Ferris Bueller? Because I was like, I have to rewatch this because I'm like, I watched it a lot, but I'm like, I need to re-see it. So I just was like, I have like, what is that, Paramount or whatever with Amazon. So I was like, okay, it's free. Just had to watch a couple ads. But even that, we're so conditioned, like ads. I don't want to watch ads. But it's like, it's like 1 minute and then you watch the movie. No big deal.
Yeah, that can be a nice, like built-in bathroom break.
Make your popcorn. Make your popcorn time or something.
I don't mind ads. I'm not a big like. I mean, if they are coming in for like 3 minutes at a time every 10 minutes, I don't love that. But I don't mind ads if they're just kind of brief and they put them in here and there. I kind of need those breaks.
Those ads, I mean, they're usually, what is it? Usually like 140, a minute and 45 seconds or something like that. It's usually some stupid number. And it's pretty quick.
Yeah. I really think in continuing on with the movie, with the ending with Cameron, where Cameron just lets out how frustrated he is.
Yeah.
His dad loves this car, pays more attention to his car than he does to his own son.
Yeah.
And he kicks the car, flying out the window down below because they live on like a stilted, beautiful, wooded, like in the woods house.
Yeah.
But I found that to be, I really was like, wow, okay, I understand that anger. I don't think I got that when I was younger.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I understood. I was just like, he kind of annoyed me, honestly.
Like, why are you doing that, Cameron? Why are you being such a brat?
Yeah.
But it does make, because he's just so, he's like, each hit, each punch is just like, he likes his car more than me. He's like, that, just basically like, okay, we couldn't set the odometer back. So, he's going to find out one way or another. So I'm just so sick of this car and I'm sick of how he treats me and how he treats inanimate objects better than he treats me and mom. And he cares about money and status. And he doesn't even drive this car. So it's just like every time. And I think Ferris and Sloan are just standing there. Like at first, Ferris is going to stop him. And then it's like, okay, then he doesn't. But I think they're just shocked seeing Cameron actually have emotion like that instead of just going inward or just,
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems good for him until the car flies through the window. And then it's like, oh, wow, he's really going to find out.
Yeah. What did I do?
There's no hiding that. But Yeah, and how Ferris, I did appreciate how Ferris was like, let me take the slack, because I kind of feel like he should have.
Yeah. Cameron should have said yes. It was 100% Ferris's fault and idea.
For sure. For sure. I know Cameron was the one that slapped it and hit it or whatever and ultimately caused it to go backwards. Still, it's absolutely.
But Ferris
related
made
to-
the extra 200 miles on the car because the idiot parking
it was
attendants
like
were like
3,000.
Yeah.
3,000 miles.
Yeah.
That's how much, which I'm like, how the heck, where did they drive?
Yeah, where did they go?
But yeah, and it really is kind of sad when I look at it, now, because we're obviously like, oh, it's this trauma and he's willing to take this on and like he wants to take this heat because he's like, oh, this will open up the conversation. This will really, there's kind of no going back from this. I can't like live this way.
Right.
Which is such that reminds me of therapy a little bit, where somebody kind of reaches their breaking point and they're just like, whether or not I need to say this to my parent, kind of.
I don't want to be this person anymore. I want to show who I am, a different part of myself, or I'm not willing to always be everyone's punching bag or to be ignored or whatever it is that was happening with Cameron.
He was taking in too much. He didn't want to be depressed anymore. He didn't want to take that in. I just really hope, like we were talking about, really hope his dad is not like abusive.
Yeah, his dad didn't beat him. Yeah.
Hopefully that does turn it around for Cameron.
Right.
I know these are fictional characters, but that's our hope for as therapists, right? Definitely a check-in moment after that to be like, what happens? Like, hope everything's okay.
You okay, Cameron? Do you need to talk?
Yeah. But yeah, and I think this is just it's got some pretty good music in there, some awesome 80s music and 80s hijinks, 80s people. It's just very classically 80s. The hairstyles, my God.
Lots of people loved wavy curly hair in the 80s.
Yeah, and then the mother, Ferris's mother, is like how it's that like short cut, but it's kind of shaggy and kind of like it's just so 80s. It just reminds me of 80s for women.
And the dad and the mom are both the power couple.
Yeah. She's like into real estate and he does like some high-end business deals or something. Yeah, so it was a great movie. I think I would still watch that at different points. It's not a movie that I would necessarily call a comfort movie, but I think it is something that I like, and I think it has a lot of good points.
Yeah, if it's on, I'm glad we chose it. I mean, it's definitely, it's good to bring. I like that we go from this period. Sometimes we'll have a lot of current stuff. Well, not a lot, but we will have current stuff that we're doing 90s and 80s, but it's a mix. You don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we're all finished, I do have a question.
Okay.
So if you were to skip school or skip work or whatever, and you had like a day where you could just go spend, because apparently Ferris is just independently wealthy.
Yeah.
Go, like spend money. What city would you choose to spend the day in to play hooky?
Anywhere. So I could just magically transport, because taking a plane would take forever. So if it's just one day. So if we had like a transport, so we could just go there and then come back.
Yeah, I would say within the United States.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
I know that's kind of, less fun, but yeah, just probably somewhere in the US. Would you be in a big city or?
Yeah, I know we've talked before that our love of big cities is not huge, but I do besides Boston, I do really like Chicago, and I do like Washington, D.C. too, because then you get to do all the museums and the parks and stuff like that, and there's good food, there's public transport. I think I'd probably do Washington, D.C., but I really did like Chicago when I went there too, and I thought it was so clean and so pretty and just really, I was so impressed with how clean Chicago was.
Yeah.
So it'd be one of those two, and then just, I'd just have all the money so I can just go anywhere, I guess, for the day.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. I would definitely I think Chicago would be on my list. I would like to do different kind of artsy things and kind of try out different food places. And so it'd probably be Chicago or New York, even though I'm not a big fan of big cities and things like that. But I think if I could just kind of go and just have fun exploring different things. Probably more New York. I think I would just kind of want to see like what could I get into. I always see all these random pop-up events and I'm like, that would be fun.
Yeah, I guess New York if you had money, so you wouldn't have to be stuck on public transportation. I would not want to take public transportation in New York. No, thank you.
Yeah. I think you can. I mean, I think it's like, you can walk. You can be.
Yeah, you do a lot of walking.
Like,
yeah. I haven't been there in forever.
I would go to museums. I would go see Broadway plays. I would go to some restaurants. Go to some art pop-ups.
That would be nice.
Like that would be really, really fun. Like anything that I don't know. They always have experimental, weird stuff that I just think like these pop-ups. I think it would be fun. But that's what I would want to do. Which I'm surprised. I was like, why am I thinking that? I do not like New York at all, but I do think.
Yeah, but if you had the money to just be like, all right, I'm just there for a day. I'm going to get a show, go to the museum, do this, just you're in and out. You're not stuck living there.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. There was talk of a sequel at some point. They decided not to go with it because they realized that this was just a moment in time that they captured. It kind of wouldn't be cool to follow them to college.
Right.
So they couldn't really get a good script out of that.
And it ended up being like, remember those movies? Ernest goes to camp. Ernest goes to work. Ernest goes on vacation. Yeah, it'd be like that. Like Ferris goes to college. Ferris gets a job.
I think it would have been kind of like, I don't know, hoaxy like that. Yeah. It wouldn't have really felt.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why they ultimately decided like this is just like lightning in a bottle kind of moments captured there. Keep it there kind of thing. I think that era, and probably now they overdo it with remakes and sequels that just are not necessary. I think some of them I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm really glad about that because I love the thing, but I still am like, no, it's maybe not the best.
Like I was happy with the Karate Kid remake of like that Cobra Kai show. I haven't finished watching it yet, but that I really liked. I was happy that they brought back the old characters. But sometimes you're like, do I really want to see a remake of this? Or
I really like the Dexter reprisal.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Now they're doing even more reprisals. They're doing like an early one, and then they're doing another like Dexter reprisal in the summer. So I definitely will watch it, but I'm just like, why? I love Dexter so much, so I won't question it. But anyways, we hope that you liked this discussion on Ferris Bueller's Day Off and all the random stuff that we always eventually talk about. So let us know what you think. Anything to add in, any future ideas. We love all that stuff. We're on socials, Facebook, Instagram, and now YouTube.
Yep.
Let us know if you have any ideas or anything that you think, anything you want to add. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget, stay wicked.
And keep your mind well. All right. Have a great day and great week. Bye-bye.